Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 1722 and Doubleshot number 1616. Two Marvel trades. The second one is going to be the finale for an actual event. I'll discuss it later. First up, it is Deadpool, The Complete Collection by Joe Kelly, Book 2. This collects issues 12 to 20 of Deadpool Volume 1, Issue 0, and Deadpool and Death and 98, Deadpool's First Baby Book, and Encyclopedia Deadpool Kia. Deadpool Kia is basically kind of like one of these spotlight books. Basically, the equivalent of what we have from Marvel Spotlight nowadays, where there's a bunch of interviews. That's simply what it is. Deadpool's First Baby Book, that is, well, a baby book written by Deadpool. That's all it is. Issue 0 is by far one of the weirdest issues of the whole series, where Deadpool encounters a bunch of clones with a bunch of people, including a clones of Aunt May and Uncle Ben, who are on a couple gurneys, and of course he kills them. There's also clones of the Wizard. Yes, the Wizard, the old Golden Age super, who, by the way, is still... I believe I think he's still alive, if I'm not mistaken. I think he is. I'm not sure. Yep. The whole thing with Death, that kind of starts a plethora with him, with Death basically obsessed with Deadpool, because how many times you try to kill him off, he can't die. That simple, just when it comes to that. Yeah, it's also not many issues as the first five. We'll collect the first 11 issues. This collected 9 issues. Yes, 9. Now it's the same artist who did the same ones. Now, you mostly also have co-writers James Farrar, Joe Cooper, and Mark Powers. These are your artists for the issues. Pete Woods, Walter McDaniel, Steve Harris, Shannon Denton, Yancey Labert, Joe Cooper, who's the co-writer, Brian Smith, and Scott Emer. And that's it. First you have this whole thing of the Drowning Man. Yeah, where it still features Typhoid Mary for a couple issues. Yep, and this is basically done by a couple of different artists for these ones. This is the weird issues because, well, why not? Yes, why the heck not? Also, Deadpool in these issues look like he has his mask untucked. Yeah, it's like he wears a slightly different mask. And look, it's Typhoid Mary. Because why not? Yep. Yeah, so with ice, it's like these issues are kind of weird per se. And also the fact that we still have Typhoid Mary here. Yes, Typhoid Mary. Who's got a thing for Deadpool? And also Boom Boom is here as well from X-Force. Because why the heck not? Blind now is a lot of these issues. But we're getting close to basically when she stops appearing in the book. Because, like, after issue 20, she appears like a handful of times after that. And that's it for her. Because mostly we have the original Boom of the original X-Force pop up in here. And then we have issue 16, which is basically, Deadpool goes to Greece. And who's the mysterious character he runs into here? Bullseye. No, seriously. He runs to Bullseye in freaking Greece. That's what he does this. He goes to Greece and runs to Bullseye. That's a fight with him. Guess this. Oh, it's Ajax. Yeah, Ajax. A character who also appeared in the Deadpool movie, the very first one. His real name is Francis. Yeah, Deadpool fought in the first movie and Deadpool killed him. Bullseye, of course, is kind of considered part of Deadpool's, kind of rogues gallery in a way, but not really. And Ajax is here for a few issues of this trade. And he doesn't do the crazy stuff he did in the movie. Oh no. You just have him basically just doing other stuff. Deadpool and Death is basically the first time Death meets Deadpool. And at one point, it seems as though Death was more... Death actually kisses Deadpool in her skeletal form. And nothing much is followed with that. We have more stuff with Ajax, who's here for these issues as the villain. Yep, he fights Deadpool a lot of the time. And of course, Blind Al gets a little bit of spotlight. Yes, Blind Al. Blind Al is a blind woman who lives with Deadpool. Yep. And here we are. Deadpool Zero. Deadpool versus a bunch of clones of people who are dead. And he kills all of them. Yes. This apparently was released by Wizard. I'm not really sure why they decided to do this for. Look at this. Now, of these characters, a couple of them are actually still very much alive. Like Bucky here. This is the period of time when he was still dead. And if you wonder who this green guy here is, that is the alien Vision. Yeah, some of these characters either killed off by Scourge, the end of the world, died, various other things. So, and who was responsible for this? The person responsible for this whole clone disaster is Artem Zola. No, seriously, Artem Zola is one responsible for this weird issue. Yes, Artem Zola, a Captain America villain, mind you, is fooling around with Deadpool. Yep. And here's the weird Deadpool's first Babe book one-shot. Yeah, it's kind of a good thing they never done the one after this one because one is just so weird. And you have Deadpool Encyclopedia, which kind of goes behind the scenes of this run. And that's it. I do enjoy the issues for what they are. And there's still one more trail to go for this one. And then we're pretty much done with Joe Keller stuff until we move on to some other writer. I'm going to give this book a 9 out of 10. Pretty fun. Alright, next move on to X-Men/Avengers Onslaught Book 3. Yep. That's what we got here. And the issues publishers trade are, I have to basically this will take me just a minute here. The issues we have published in this trade are Avengers 402, the final issue of Avengers Volume 1. Punisher Volume 3, number 11. I'll talk about this in a minute. Thor, Volume 1, issue 502. Final issue of the first volume, and the last time we see Temperature numbering until 2009. Wolverine 105. X-Men 56-57, and the 96 annual. Awesome Marvel Universe, Epilogue, Cable 36, and Kenny X-Men 337, X-Men Road to Onslaught, and material from Fantastic Four 416. Now, I've got to talk about the Punisher one. Yes, this is from the John Ostrander run. You're thinking, John Ostrander. You mean the guy who created the Suicide Squad for DC, had rather good success there? Punisher was one of 2 books he worked at Marvel. Yeah, one of 2 big books he worked at. Actually, one of 3. Because he worked on this book, he worked on Quicksilver, he worked on Heroes for Hire, and a couple of books. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of success at Marvel. No, he didn't. Yeah, this is during the run where, let's have the Punisher join the mob. Yes, the very people he's trying to kill. He joins them. And this issue is just simply just him and George Washington Bridge. That's seriously what the guy's name is. George Washington Bridge. He's called GW Bridge for short. Where they team up to fend off Sentinels attacking the Shield Hair Killer. That's the whole point of the issue. Really good issue, mind you. Yeah, and then here's the thing. 7 issues later, the book ends. Yeah. First up we have Avengers 402. Don't miss this end of an era. Yeah, pretty much this is the end. This is the final issue of Volume 1. I think Wade writes this one. Yep, he does. With Mike D down on the artwork. Yep. Most appropriate for this one, basically, it's just the Avengers preparing for the end, and the in the main one-shot. But this was the next appearance of the Teenage Tony Stark after the end of his book. Yep. And then, of course, like I said, the Punisher one I've already brought up on here. Also, there's the writer of the book with Tom Lyle. Yes, Tom Lyle is the artist. Really good artwork here. Mm-hmm. And to my knowledge, this is the first and only time the Punisher's taken on the Sentinels. Yes, because can you think of any other time where he's taken on the Sentinels? No, not really. And then you have Thor 502, the final issue of the first volume for Thor, which has a guest appearance by this is Red Thor. Yes, this is they credit him as Bill Messner-Loebs. This is William Messner-Loebs. Way back to the Jr. on the artwork. This one actually looks like it's slightly better than from 396. Oddly enough, it's kind of weird though the fact that between issues 496 to 500, at least 500, they don't include those issues in trade like here. Not really, no. Let me take a look and see about that. Yeah, in the case of pretty much the end of this run, there technically is a trade that collects the final issues. There is one. There is Sunlight and Shadows. Actually, there's a couple of them. Yeah, one is Sunlight and Shadows that collects Thor 495 and 497 to 502. That's one of them anyways. There's one I'm not seeing here, but that was one that preceded it. It's... one you probably would definitely read is, this one here is Visionaries Mike Dow Jr. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And mostly put, basically, now in the case of this Red Thor, I've heard him as Red Thor. He's currently dead now. Yeah, Donny Cole's killing him off in his current run for Thor. How did he die? He got killed by evil Donald Blake. Yeah, he pops up here for this one last issue as a one last hurrah for Thor before its relaunch. And he meets up with Jane Foster again. Yes, Jane Foster. I kind of forgot she showed up here. Meets up with Hela. And basically have him and Red Thor just, having a campfire. And here's a little fun thing what happens after this book was ended. Was it restart number 1 like it was with Avengers, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Captain America? No. Book ended, but it was retitled Journey into Mystery with issue number 503. And this lasted for 19 issues. Actually, no, 19 issues. This lasted for 20 issues. Before it ended, it was relaunched as Thor Volume 1 by Dan, I think it was Dan Jurgens, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Dan Jurgens. Yep. Well, I believe was the writer for pretty much the entire volume of Thor at that point. Yes. Excuse me. Yep. Yeah. I forgot to mention this too. In the last review, when I talked about, I don't have the book next to me, but the previous volume, the writer of Wolverine in this poem was Larry Hama. You've been thinking, Larry Hama, as in the guy who writes G.I. Joe American Hero? Yep, same guy. And he is the most noteworthy writer who wrote Wolverine. He wrote most of this volume. Yes, he did. Let me look up on here. Now, yes, in the case of American Hero, he pretty much writes the entire book. In the case of Wolverine, this book here, this actually is toward the end of one of his runs he did the book. He actually started issue 31. That was the first issue he did. He only skipped, he started issue 31, he wrapped up his issue 118. He only skipped 1, 2, 3, only 4 issues. 4 out of, I think this was, let's see, 70, 88 issue run. Yes, for this 88 issue run, he only skipped 4 issues. Yep, and this is one of his issues. Yeah, it's not even the 4 issues later. He would briefly take a break for a few more issues, for at least one issue before he comes back. Yeah, and this issue here, this just, despite the fact this is a Onslaught tie-in, mostly put Wolverine. By the way, Wolverine, in case you're curious though, why does he have this weird mask? Where's his cowl? It's because of Fatal Attraction. That's the reason why he has that. Now, this is him basically saving people from a fire. That's simple what this issue is. And he runs to Stick in this issue. Stick. You're thinking, if you're fans of Daredevil, you know who this guy is. He's the guy who trained Daredevil in martial arts. And here's the thing. Stick's dead. Yeah, he's been dead for quite some time. Well, he was dead. He was brought back in I think at the time of this book coming out, he was still dead. I think as far as I can tell, I think he was... I think at the time he was actually dead. Yes, I believe he was. He was brought back for a cross-up for the Crosshouse Champions series by Al Ewing. Yep. And yes, he did pop up on Daredevil. Played by an actor by the name of Scott Glenn, who did an absolutely great job with the character. Yeah, here's the thing. Like, do you know who created Stick? Frank Miller. Yes. One of the biggest aspects about Daredevil, namely the guy who trained him, Stick, was not a creation of Stan Lee. You gotta thank Frank Miller for that. He created him, like, a look at this issue, like, oh yeah, this is actually toward the end of his original run for the book. I got hand to hand. This actually was a really good issue. The Stick conclusion here feels a bit random, but he briefly fights him, but he gets back on his own. But it's like, okay, last issue he featured Elektra, now he features frickin' this character. Now, 416 for Fantastic Four, I believe this was like the last issue of this run before I got restarted. Yeah, mostly put this issue, just, of course, this is Tom DeFalco issue. It's mostly put like another issue, like preparing for the end. That's mostly what that issue is. Yeah. While battling various air foes, we have submarine forces with Fantastic Four, simply because it's getting to the very end. So why not? It's a very good issue. Then we move on to X-Men, Volume 2, 56. And this one's done by Scott Lobdell. Yeah, this book basically, at this point in time, like, went through several different writers. Yes, for some reason, like, they couldn't keep a stable writer in the book for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but they did. It's by far one of the most baffling things they did with the book. Yeah, it was this period of time where it was mostly Lobdell who was writing the book. He wrote this book along with Kenny X-Men. Yep. You mostly just had him, and I think the Seed was coming in briefly. But yeah, you had, for the 90s, they went through a handful of different writers. And if you're curious, though, who was the original writer of this book? Of course, Claremont. The last writer? Simon Spurrier. Yes, seriously. And Mike Carey was the longest writer on the book. You might ask, who was the longest running artist for the book? Andy Kubert. He did it for 4 years. Same amount of time that my character is in the book for 5 years. Yep. So yeah, mostly the X-Men. You also have Rogue and Magneto deal with the Sentinels, deal with Captain America, appearance with Onslaught. This one feels like more progression of the story than the other tie-ins did. The other ones basically feel like getting toward the very end, like, okay, we're getting toward the Onslaught Marvel Universe, which, here it is. This is done by Loebs and Mark Waid. Yep. You have the Watch with his big, huge head. Yes, the Watch's big, huge head. And he pairs with the big final battle to take on Onslaught. Have the whole Marvel Universe take him on. And half of them get killed off in the story. Yeah, but they fight. And the Avengers go off, and some of them perish, but not all of them. Along with Fantastic Four. Yep. And of course, the saga continues in Fantastic Four, number 1. Captain America, number 1. Iron Man, number 1. Avengers, number 1. And the rest of our universe. Then we move on to Cable, 36. And Jeff Loeb is the writer. Yeah, and he's headquartered out of the Four Freedoms Plaza. You're thinking, now, the main four are gone, but Franklin's still here, along with his grandfather, the Theta Richards, who actually fixed the Cable's arm, which basically went humongously nuts. Like, wow, look at that. It's so weird. But look at the end of the issue, he's fixed. No problem. Yep. Yeah, it takes a whole issue, but he's finally fixed. Gets to explore his past, but yeah, he's back now. I'm a new man again. And move on to X-Men 337. Where, yes, this is a Loebs issue. Of course, he's dealing with the aftermath. Of course, Bastion's here. And the whole point of this issue is basically, well, Xavier constantly surrendering to the government, or what happened with Onslaught. Yep. It's him just contemplating that. And then 57, he does it. Also done by Loebs. He actually surrenders to the U.S. government. And the aftermath, basically, of this builds up to the next crossover, Operation Zero Tolerance. Yep, and that's the very next crossover that comes after this one. So yeah, then we come to X-Men Annual 96. Where it just, the X-Men playing a baseball game for a whole annual. And you're thinking, who writes this one? This will surprise you. Larry Hama writes this one. This is the only annual he wrote for this one. Yep, and this is the only thing he contributed to X-Men Volume 2 was writing this one annual. Yeah, they have the fighting a Sentinel and just basically the X-Men Xavier around. Really good annual. Just the day with the X-Men. Really good. But we're not done yet. Nope, not done yet. And then Epilogue, which is simply like written by Larry Hama. This is meant to be like a final end of this book. And this book here, let me look on here. I think it was either Operation Zero Tolerance or was A Hunt for Xavier was the next one. No, it was Operation Zero Tolerance. This was the very next crossover that came right after this one wrapped up. Don't think it was. No, it was actually that one. It was Operation Zero Tolerance that came right after this crossover wrapped up. They just had it. Yep. And mostly put, that's what this does. It just basically Xavier being held as a prisoner by Operation Zero Tolerance. Excuse me. Then it sets up that particular crossover. Which happens not long after this one. Yep. Yeah, and then, well, that's pretty much it. A bunch of interviews, but that's simply it. And that's the Onslaught event for you. Over the course of 3 books. This event, in my opinion, was really good. Nothing really bad about the story, per se. No, it is fully collected in trade, so don't worry about that. The only thing I think a lot of people might be turned off by this crossover is how long it is. Yes, because of its sheer length. Yes, that's probably the reason why people are basically turned off by this event. Because of how long it is. Yes. That's the only reason why people be turned off by it. Is because of the event being so long. Yeah. And if you're curious though, how long is the event of Onslaught? It takes up a lot of comic books. Yes, by far, out of all, there is about 35 comic books for this one. Yes, 35. That is how much is covered for this event. Yeah, 35. Starts on sex number 1 and goes from that point forward. Now here's the weird thing. Onslaught does die in this event. He does die at the very end. And he stays dead. For 9 years. Until he's brought back as a side effect of House of M. And then he's trapped. Then that is explored in the Onslaught Reborn miniseries, where he's trapped in, I think, some other dimension with Ricky Barnes. The Ricky Barnes gets out. Onslaught himself is not seeing after until the miniseries, until the short-lived ongoing series, The Way of X, and then there was this one that came afterwards where they officially kill off Onslaught, and he's done. Yeah, Onslaught's all done. Yep, he is all done. There is no more Onslaught after that. And you're thinking, really? Yeah, he's gone. He died last year. They finally got rid of the character. You're probably asking, why the heck did Marvel bring the character back? Don't know. It's one of the most weirdest things related to Hickman's Krakatoa stuff. Yeah. Because prior to that, like, you had the Onslaught Reborn, Onslaught Unleashed. You had a couple of issues here and there. But yeah, Way of X was his most recent. Like, prior to pop-up in Way of X #1, his last actual appearance prior to that was an X-Men Legacy, I think it was an Illusion. Yeah, it was only a flashback. It was a flashback 7 years prior, but his last actual physical appearance was back in Onslaught #4 back in 2011. Yes, 2011. That was his last appearance part of that, and then he returns here 10 years later for this brief run, which was not listed as an ongoing, not listed as a mini-series, but apparently it was. Maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's the particular review, and it's probably all, it's getting kind of late right now, so I probably don't have time to make videos now, so I'll probably save the next video for tomorrow, okay? Next video. Bye.